Alright, hi howdy. It's Reb, the idiot you work with if you're a coworker. Here is, finally, the either long-awaited or not cared at all about video of me exploring Parkside's tunnels. Apologies in advance for my potty mouth, but I swear a lot. Deal with it. Anyway, I made a vlog to my bestie right before I went down there, explaining my gear and stuff, so I'll just splice that in here super quick just for reference. Magical movie splicing, go! Kaboom! Hey ho, motherfucker! Today is the day I'm going splunking in those cool ass tunnels under work. I have my knockoff GoPro and my head mount, and I had this flashlight I literally duct taped to the top of my head so I can see what the fuck I'm doing down there. I also have this. But yeah, just a coworker wanted to go with me, so I'm waiting for her to get here. But if she doesn't show up by like 12:30, I'm just gonna go solo because I am ready for adventure. But yeah, hopefully I don't die down there or like find a rabid hobo or something. You never know. Shit could get really real. It could be awesome. Yeah, I'm wearing my old Woodman smock, the one that I ordered that was like 3 sizes too big for me. This is a medium, apparently. A fucking medium. Look at this. A medium. What? No. What the actual fuck-a-doodle? In what world is this a medium? But anyway, so if it gets fucking destroyed, I don't give a fuck, because it's stupid anyway. Alright, awesome. Did you enjoy that? I sure did. But yeah, so that Woodman smock was ridiculous. That was a medium, legit for real. It came like 8,000 sizes too big for me, and I couldn't return it. That was crap. But now, finally, years after the fact, I got use out of it. So at least there's that. And yes, you saw me texting my mother because she was very worried that I was going to die in the tunnels alone. So I had to text her and let her know that I was going down, and text her again when I got out so that she didn't call the cops and freak out and be stupid. I love my mother, but she is a worrywart. And obviously you have also noticed that I am doing a voiceover after the fact. That is because I kind of fucked up. Let me explain. I've never used a GoPro, or in this case, a knockoff GoPro before, so I thought it only came with one case, which was a waterproof case. So I had it mounted on my head in the waterproof case, and definitely didn't think it through, and didn't realize that being waterproof would mean it was also soundproof. So the entire time I was talking to myself and doing trash commentary down the tunnels, it barely recorded any of it because it was soundproof and waterproof. So if I had uploaded this just plain, it would just be like awkward clunky clunk noises and silence and weird little squeaks of sound here and there. So my friend suggested that I do a voiceover to make it less boring to watch. So here we are! And I mean, you really didn't miss anything cool anyway. I was literally just idly chatting to myself the whole time to make it less awkward and quiet. So, I mean, unless me talking to myself for like a half hour is something you wanted to listen to, you didn't miss much. But apparently people still wanted to hear what was going on, so I'll just do a voiceover commentary for you. There you go. Happy medium. Okay, so I was supposed to have a partner to go spelunking with me, but she forgot, or something, so I had to go alone, which in the end was probably fine anyway because it was cramped and gross down there, and it would have been kind of difficult with 2 people, so I mean it would have been fine, but it all worked out in the end, so no big deal. I was super happy to see that the tunnels were dry this time. The first time I went down there, it had been partially flooded. I don't know if it's because we had had work on the plumbing done recently, or if it was just because it's been such a wet fall, but it had been pretty wet down there. But thankfully this time it was dry. So at the very least, I didn't have to worry about getting soaked. Also, big obvious reason for the mask is that this building is old and was some sort of human medical building before it was a veterinary building. I don't know the whole history of the building. They had doctor's husband, apparently knows some history about it, but he was unable to join me on the tour because of prior obligations, whatever. But, so, it was some sort of human medical building before this, and it's old enough that it probably had asbestos in it. So, at some point people did come through and de-asbestotize it, but I don't know if that included the tunnels or not, and there was a lot of crazy shit and like dust and particles down there, so it was pretty important to wear a mask, just because mesothelioma does not sound like a good time to me. The very first time I went down there, I went down just in my work clothes, with like no protection gear or anything, and I went a little bit ways into the tunnel, and the little ways I went, I had managed to kick up all kinds of dust and debris, and I was already huffing and puffing and having trouble breathing after like 3 minutes down there. So, in any case, even if the dust down there is just dust, wear a mask for safety. You can see there's like either rotting insulation or mold. I'm not quite sure what it was on the walls, but it was kind of gross. Thanks to the respirator I was wearing, I couldn't really smell anything. But even when I went down there the first time, it didn't smell bad. It just smelled like stale, dusty, nasty, like closet or tunnel, I guess. Like how you would expect a dusty tunnel to smell. That's how it smelled. So, there's that, in case you were wondering. And here, finally, we get to pretty much the only cool thing I found in the tunnels. There was randomly some graffiti down there. I don't know why. That's a really weird place to put graffiti, but somebody had written Jody on the wall in some black paint or oil or something, and then drew a little flag symbol next to it. I have no idea who Jody is. Nobody at work knows who Jody is. But apparently, at some point, Jody decided to go chill in our tunnels and then just, like, tag her name down there. So, it's a mystery. Who is Jody? What was Jody doing in the tunnels? What the hell, Jody? Coming clean, I did very briefly debate taking my own graffiti in the tunnels, but vandalism's not really my thing. I didn't have a writing utensil anyway, and I don't really care, so I just moved on. This part right here where I hesitate a little is just because this is as far as I went the first time. So after this is completely unexplored territory. And you can see there were a bunch of vents, like randomly just venting air down into the tunnels. Like I could feel airflow coming out of them, so they were like pushing air out. And they also, as you can see either soon or in a second, or maybe you already did see, whatever, there is quite a lot of hair and fur and dust that's like all over them and like shot out of them all over the pipes. Kind of crazy. But yeah, I guess, I mean, I understand it would have to be ventilated down there, but I wonder if our work ventilation just randomly shoots air down there and if that circulates throughout the building. Because if it does, it's probably not great that it's so dusty down there. But hey, what do I know? I'm just speculating. There was a lot of piping and valves and stuff, but they were at least labeled with numbers, so there was some method to the chaos. I mean, I wouldn't envy whoever had to go down here and do stuff, but hopefully it made sense to them, because I would have no clue where to start. But here, I did finally figure out where I was. You can see the relatively new-looking piping there. That is where the new grooming tub was put in when we moved grooming. So at least when I'm here, I'm right underneath the new grooming building. Wow. Room, even. It's a room, not a building. Goddamn. But yeah, so finally a marker, so I know where the fuck I am. Here we go. So, apologies about this part. The head mount kept sliding off of my head, and I had my flashlight taped up there, so it was like constantly also falling off my head. Clearly, this head mount was not built for people who have a massive amount of hair, because my massive amount of hair was making it slide all the fuck over my head, and it was really irritating, so I had a little freak out here and tried to readjust it and make it stay. So, camera seizure! Woo! Sorry. So, gonna real quick throw this picture up. I found this, or rather the construction dudes found this when they were working. We very recently moved grooming to the back of the building, and that required some work, obviously. So while the construction dudes were moving stuff around and doing things, they found this in the wall. It appears to be a timestamp of someone who did either construction work on this building or who built it. So it says February 17th, 1958. 12 below. Joe Kastner. Don't know what that means, but that at least is an approximate date of when this building may have been built. So yeah, some history. Hooray. These tunnels were at a really awkward height. Like, you could kind of squat stand, but you couldn't stand to your full height. So you could kind of walk on your feet, but you had to, like, walk hunched over and, like, kind of in a squat walk. And it was really awkward, and it really burned your thighs, and it hurt. Or you could just crawl, because that was always an option. So, needless to say, navigating down there was not exactly comfortable. But it's doable. The shitty thing was that I wore steel-toed boots that they were from my warehouse job at Woodman's, because I thought, protection. But when I crawled, I kept slamming my toes into the cement, so it was just like ping, 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 clang, clang, clang the whole time. So it was really annoying. You're actually probably glad you can't hear that. And what you just saw there, I suspect, was an old communications switchboard. Maybe. I don't know why that was in the tunnels. I'm not someone who does a lot of communications wiring, but when people like wire phone lines in and like splice them and they wire into different rooms and all that jazz, that's kind of maybe what it looks like sometimes. So yeah, I figured some old communications switchboard that's just randomly chilling down there. Still had a bunch of wires in it, but they were all cut. So I guess whoever left it down there just didn't feel like taking it out. Disclaimer, you may hear random bits of me bitching incessantly about how much my knees hurt. Being the idiot that I am, I forgot to bring knee pads. Didn't have any knee pads, so I just resigned myself to smashing my patellas repeatedly into the floor, and therefore breaking them into 1,000 pieces. I mean, it felt great. I can't wait to do it again. It was awesome. Despite the whole case being waterproof and more or less sound resistant, I guess, it did still pick up little bits of me talking, but it's so muffled and distorted that it's really hard to pick up. But like I said, you might hear little bits of me screeching in pain at various points. And as you can see, for some reason in this part, there were a crap load of random wires all over the place. And I mean, I couldn't tell what kind of wires they were. I was a little bit concerned that I might get electrocuted when I crawled over them at one point, but I was fine. I didn't die. So, being the polite person that I am, I thanked them for not electrocuting me, because that was very considerate. There was also a lot of insulation falling off the wall, but I mean, given the age of the building, I'm not surprised. And then at some point, I just decided I didn't care anymore, and I was going for maximum spookiness, and just turned the lights out, and crawled in the dark for a while. Just for shits and giggles, because why not? I think it was somewhere around this point that it became extremely apparent to me that I am really lucky that I'm not allergic to dust or mold, because I would be having a hell of a time down there if I were. I also think this was the point where I had a profound conversation with myself about something. Couldn't really tell you what it was. I can guess. I think it was... Yeah, I think I remember now. I was recounting the similarities between exploring the tunnels under Parkside and when I went overseas when I was still in college, when I went to Jordan, and we went to some really old castles and some collapsed caves and stuff, and I went spelunking around there too. I mean, obviously Jordan was more exciting and probably more dangerous, but it brought me back a little bit, and I thought it was kind of cool. Probably could have died, but you know what? I'm all about adventure. It's fine. So when everybody was asking me if I was afraid to go in those tunnels alone, not really. I mean, there's always the risk that I could run into a rabid hobo or some sort of giant, like, radioactive rodent or something, but that never happened. I was waiting the whole time for something super scary to come out at me, and nothing happened. I was actually a little bit disappointed. At least up until this point, it hadn't been that spooky. By the way, if I sound a little disappointed that a rabid hobo never showed up, it's because I actually am. That would have been really exciting, and it wouldn't have been a bad way to go out, to be honest. And you know what? I'm not picky. I would have taken a giant rodent too. Anyway, my possible horrific death scenarios aside, well, I didn't encounter anything terrifying. I did encounter a lot of dust and debris, as previously mentioned. But by this point, I was kicking up quite a lot of it. I'm not sure if the camera really catches it or not, but there was crap flying everywhere. Thankfully, my respirator was working because I was not choking on asbestos. So, that's definitely a plus. Again, I don't even know if there is asbestos down there, but you never know. Better safe than sorry. I know the camera doesn't really seem to be focused on anything, and it flies around a lot. It's because, like I kind of said, it's on the top of my head, so I can't really tell exactly what it's looking at. And plus, I've never really used a GoPro or anything like it before, so I was just looking at stuff with my eyes and walking around. I was just assuming that it was looking at stuff and that you were kind of seeing what I was seeing. So, I mean, if you weren't, I'm sorry. I tried. I think it turned out okay. But hey, I'm getting to the point, I think we're about at it, where I did finally find a corpse in the tunnels. But it's not an exciting corpse. It was just a super, super mummified dead fly. But I mean, I was excited to find it because at least I found something dead down there. And the dead fly also had a dead spider friend nearby. But the dead spider friend was in pieces, so he was harder to see. And a little further up the tunnel there, you can see there's some kind of random pipe doohickey. I took a closer look, but I really couldn't figure out what it was. Probably some aspect of plumbing that was just left down there. But, I mean, it looked like it was connected to something underneath the tunnel, like maybe like a drainage pipe, but who knows. It was just kind of chilling there, so. It said McDonald Dubuque on it, like it was stamped with that name. That probably means absolutely nothing, but in case you wanted to know, there you go. Yeah. After a while down here, it became kind of difficult to breathe. Not because I was, like, inhaling dust or anything. The respirator was working fine. It just turns out that crawling is actually a lot more work than it seems like it is. It was a lot of exertion, and I am not in the best of shape. So, it was a lot of work for me. And plus, the respirator over my face, of course, did make it more difficult to breathe. And I think it was around this point that I made a comment about how I'm really going to be pissed off at myself and feel like a dumbass if I get mesothelioma like 20 years from now from this. But, well, I guess we'll see, won't we? Also, I'm pretty sure it's mesothelioma, not mesothelioma. Mesothelioma. Talking is difficult for me. Fun fact, it turns out I'm socially crippled and super anxious even when I'm just by myself. How sad is that? No, seriously though, if my social awkwardness and social crippledness could be measured in terms of a physical disability, I would probably be like Stephen Hawking's. Sorry, not sorry, it's true. Anyway, moving on. Around this point, I got super tired and I decided that I need a frickin' breather. So, I took a sit down in the dark and decided to talk to myself some more, because why not? I think the topic of discussion was... what was it? Oh, yeah, never mind. I was contemplating the purpose of the tunnels. I mean, I understand that the building doesn't have a basement, so it would need something underneath it for access and such. But it just seems weird, you know? Like, tunnels under a building aren't that common, are they? Obviously, I'm not the kind of person who goes exploring buildings a lot. I'm pretty boring. But this is one of the few buildings I know about that has an extensive tunnel system underneath it. I don't think it's a very common thing. Although, my super awesome coworker Emily was chatting me up one day, and she said that east side of town, even, like specifically around the Super Valley on University Avenue on the east side, has tunnels a lot like Parkside's underneath it. So, what the fuck are they for? Just service tunnels? Because that's too boring of an answer. There has to be something more cool than that. So I sat in the dark and talked to myself. I said, let's contemplate in the dark, me, myself, and I. I talk to myself a lot, can you tell? And as I sat there, I kind of realized that I wasn't really sure exactly where I was. I mean, I was still under Parkside, but it had been a lot more twisty-turny and maze-like than I expected it to be. So I had gotten disorientated at some point, and I kind of felt a bit lost. Like, I wasn't sure where I really was in terms of, like, under the building, like where, you know what I mean. And I had originally planned to buy a bunch of glow sticks, like really cheap ones, and break them and drop them around every corner so I wouldn't get lost in case my flashlight failed or something. But I got lazy and never went and bought any, so... And it turns out I didn't need it anyway. What would have been even more cool would have been if I could have gotten a GPS signal down there to see where I was in terms of the building layout. But as it turns out, either my cell phone signal is just shit, or the concrete just blocks the cell signal regardless down there, because I couldn't get anything. So much for that idea. I was kind of getting really into it, and I was like, this is kind of like filming a documentary. But what if it's like Blair Witch or something, where I actually end up dying and someone finds the footage? So, if I got lost down here and died, but someone found the video, they would get to watch my slow and painful death and probably watch me descend into this insanity and like complete despair. That would be actually maybe kind of cool. It's gallows humor. It would not be cool for me. But the joke's on you ultimately because I'm too stubborn to die like that. Though, when you think about it, it might not be the worst way to die. I mean, getting killed by a rabid hobo would be even cooler, but... I mean, just pictured if it came up in random conversation how it would sound. Hey, how did your coworker die? Well, she decided to go spelunking under the tunnels under work, and then the dumbass got lost down there and starved to death. Wow, that's pretty brutal. Sure is. Yep, had to go looking for her when something started stinking. Found her nasty bloated corpse down there. It was pretty rank. I'll stop now, but you get the point, I hope. I know my commentary is shit. I'm sorry too. Eventually, I just started singing songs to myself. One of them was a really amazing musical piece about dying alone in the dark. I wish the stupid video thing had captured it because it was a great song. I really put my heart into that one. But unfortunately, it has been lost to time. Real shame. I did eventually have to stop singing, though, because I was getting too tired. Between crawling and huffing and puffing through the respirator and then trying to sing to myself, I was just like, this is too much work. Getting tired. Huff, huff. Too much. Must stop. And honestly, I had kind of hoped I would have found the end by now. And yet, just as I was thinking that, I turned a corner and lo and behold, the exit appears. I'm not gonna die in the dark after all. Victory is mine! Yes!
Okay, so that mystery is solved. Tunnels do connect, there's no dead ends, and there's no way to get lost and die down here unless you're really, really dumb. So that's good to know. Good to know. However, the air is thick and full of asbestos and dust. It is extremely hard to breathe, and it's very hard to walk because of the awkward height, and it's very hot. Oh no, not the greatest experience.
So, now we definitively know that the tunnels are all linked, and they stay underneath Parkside. They don't go anywhere else. And there's no dead ends, and there's no real way to get lost unless you're woefully unprepared and or very dumb. So, all in all, I'd say pretty safe to explore. And pretty fun. Not that spooky, though. The only thing that was really spooky, and by that I mean sucked, is that at the end there, for some reason there was little chunks of metal, or sharp, I think it was metal, it didn't look like glass, but there were sharp little bits all over the floor. And again, me lacking my knee pads, had to trample over it with my kneecaps, and it hurt a lot. I stabbed myself multiple times. It was not fun. I know you're super worried about me, but don't be. I'm up to date in my vaccinations. I won't get tetanus and die. I'm guessing it was just leftover debris from the last plumbing job we had. It just sucked. Because it hurt. But I'll get over it. I'm a big girl. I'll be fine. Though, right by the end of the tunnel here, there was a bunch of random shit stashed away. which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know how long it's been down there, but one thing was this random chunk of metal, like part of a pipe or something. Not sure what that was. Couldn't really tell what it was for, so just left it. But there were two big gallon-y things of waterproof anti-slip floor wax. The label-y thing said it was from 1338 Willow Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin. It didn't have a date on it, so I couldn't tell when it was from. But it looked pretty retro. I mean, I think I got a little bit of the label in there, so you can probably see it. I would say maybe... I'm really bad at predicting time periods, but it's retro. Retro! And actually, in addition to the Willow Street address, it also had an address from St. Paul, Minneapolis. Minneapolis. God damn it. Minnesota. What a twist!
Wait, scratch that. The other side is says St. Paul, Minnesota. What a twist. Damn my head, stupid thing. Claim product, St. Paul, 16, Minnesota, USA. Ford Parkway. But there's no date on you. Why is there no date? It looks pretty retro though.
And in addition to the floor wax, there were also two drums of General Electric transformer oil for use with oil-cooled and oil-insulated General Electric X-ray equipment from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I don't know if that's dangerous, if it's flammable, or like how long it's been down there. Presumably, I'm guessing that shit was from when this was a human medical building. Because I don't think our veterinary X-ray equipment ever used transformer oil. But my old man suspects that it's carcinogenic and that we should probably dispose of it. But that's not my say or my duty, really. That's up for the people who own the building to decide. But FYI, that's down there. And it may or may not be carcinogenic or filled with dangerous, horrible chemicals. So, now you know. One of them is kind of at least half full, I thought. I kicked it and there was some shit in it. And the other one felt mostly empty. So, do with it what you will.
From Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Is this dangerous to have down here? It's gotta be flammable, right? What about this box?
There was also a box full of a bunch of random metal shit. I think my exact words were, "What the fuck is this? A propeller?" Just because it looked like a boat propeller. I mean, obviously it's not, but that's what it looked like. I still don't know what the hell it was, but it was just like these random like fan blades or like little propeller blades and like a bunch of random stuff in a box. So, Lord only knows what the hell that was for, but that's down there too.
And more oil, but this one's empty. Oh, my shoe's on, God.
As much fun as I was having, I did eventually want to breathe again and enjoy decent airflow, so I was gonna go back up. I also felt pretty gross, and I was pretty sure I was covered in shit, so I was ready to get out of there. And so, thus ends my first excursion into Parkside's tunnels. What an adventure it was!
I missed you. Disgusting.
I then promptly went to a mirror to see how disgusting I was. And I was pretty disgusting. I mean, I usually am anyway, but it was worse than usual.
Let's do it again.
Except, just kidding. Guess who came back for more? Me. I was already covered in shit and looked gross anyway, so I decided that I would try to take my cell phone down there and see if I could get any GPS, just to see if I could map the tunnels a tiny little bit. Because why not? I was also going super hardcore this time and only took my baby flashlight with and left the giant spotlight back on the table. Unfortunately, I also forgot my gloves for some reason, and my flashlight started shitting out on me. It started flickering and just, like, not staying on. So I yelled at it, "Don't you shit out on me!" And then proceeded to continue anyway because I just didn't care anymore.
You're stressing me out. You need to stop doing that. I don't trust you flickering.
And as you can see, the phone screen is way too damn bright to see anything anyway. But even if you could see it, it was impossible to get any kind of signal down there as predicted. I mean, if I had some sort of device that had super powerful GPS and actually worked under pounds of concrete, I would take it down there and map that shit out sometime. But, I mean, I guess standard cell phones won't cut it. And I honestly couldn't tell if I was weaving under the building when I was going down there or if I was just kind of staying around the perimeter. I tried insulting my cell phone and hurling all kinds of vulgarities at it, but it was just ineffective. It just didn't care and just refused to work. But, I mean, as long as I was down there, I decided, just chill in the dark, might as well go investigate the Jody graffiti some more. However, my knees hurt like a bitch at this point, so I just kind of resorted to awkward crab scuttling to navigate, which worked pretty well, honestly. In fact, I would go as far to recommend, if you find yourself crawling in tunnels like this, I would say that you should try crab walking instead of crawling on your hands and knees. You know, like normal crawling. It hurts less, trust me. Doesn't matter how stupid you look, you'll thank me later. But seriously, who the hell is Jody? And what the hell does her weird stupid flag symbol mean? I mean, it's such a random... Why would you tag graffiti in the tunnels under a building? Who's gonna see it? What's the point? It's just weird. Another thing that's weird is that kind of black rotting insulation mark or mold or whatever the hell it is in the wall there is kind of in the shape of a handprint. So I held my hand up to it and I was surmising perhaps it's the white hand of Saruman. Except in this case it would be the black hand of Saruman. But you know. I mean, maybe Jody is channeling some Tolkien shit down there. That would be kind of cool. I could respect that. And I mean, I guess it's irrelevant. Whatever the hell she was doing, I have no idea who she is, when she was, or what the hell happened. So it will remain a mystery unless someone at Parkland can figure out who Jody was. But regardless of the lingering mystery, it was just kind of cool in the tunnels. I mean, it's really dusty and gross, but it's just kind of cool that they're down there. I mean, it's hard to judge distance because you have to crawl and stuff, but I think it just makes it seem bigger than it actually is. It felt like a maze, like we have a labyrinth under work, even though it probably wasn't that big at all. And honestly, if you were stuck down there in the dark without a light source, it would be legitimately scary. I mean, it's perfect dark. You can't see anything. You can't see your hand in front of your face. If my flashlight suddenly died, I would be kind of fucked. I'd have to feel my way out of there. I mean, I'd be fine in this case because I was close to the entrance, but if that had happened like deeper in the tunnels, that could be really bad. If you really want to freak yourself out, try going down there in the perfect dark. Now, I'm gonna just come right out and say my personal beliefs are completely irrelevant to this video, or pretty much anything ever. But to encourage spookiness, I should say, I did kind of ask if there was anyone down there in terms of spirits. I mean, it was a human medical building at some point, before it was a veterinary medical building. Maybe it could be haunted or something. And I sat in the dark for a bit and was like, hey, anybody down here? Anything want to spook me? But I mean, the reason I mention my beliefs is because I'm an agnostic atheist. Again, it's not really relevant, but I don't really believe in the whole afterlife shit, so I'm not really afraid of stuff I don't believe in. Hence why I felt confident enough to do this. Make sense? I'm not trying to shit anybody's beliefs over here, I'm just explaining myself. Especially if there are coworkers watching, because I know we mentioned jokingly about bringing a Ouija board down there, which I will not do. I was kind of fucking around, but kind of not fucking around at the same time. Like, I'll mess with things to a point, but not past a certain point, if that makes sense. I'm fine being like, hey, is there spooky shit down here? But I'm not actually gonna try, like conjuring spirits and shit. That's a little bit much for me. And I don't even know if any of that was serious, but it was mentioned, so here, I mentioned it back. Now we're good. But anyway, sat in the dark for a bit, then I walked back in the dark, and then I said, if someone or something wants to spook me, now would be a great time. It's dark as hell and I can't see shit. Come on, spook me! And I mean, it also would have been a great time for that rabid hobo or giant rodent to come out and shank me. But once again, nothing spooky happened. It was just a dark tunnel underground under Parkside. The only even close to spooky thing that happened was that I got snagged on a big metal hook at one point when I was crawling past it. I mean, if that counts as scary, sure, it was spooky. But not really. It was just like, oh, I'm stuck. What the hell? And that was that. That was a tour. That was Parkside's tunnels.
If anyone wants to jump out and spook me, that would be a great time. It's dark and I can't see shit. Ouch! Fell over. That was my fault. Nothing spooked me. Come on. Spook me. That would be a great time for that rabid hobo.
So, I did my exploring. I did my spooping. And, you know, I guess that was enough for me. It was a good time, but I was done. I didn't actually start feeling completely sore from the weird, awkward squat walking and crawling until probably like a day after the fact. But I could kind of already tell, like, well, this is going to feel like shit in a couple hours. Or like 12 hours, whatever. So by the time I got back to the point where I could see the exit points, like the light, I decided that I was done crawling and squat walking and fucking contorting myself to get through this stupid goddamn tunnel. So I decided that I was just going to aggressively crab walk my way out. For shits and giggles, because why not? And as it turned out, that was actually like 10,000% easier than just crawling or walking. I honest to God should have just crab walked the whole fucking time I was down there. It would have been easier. Back to what I said. It doesn't matter how stupid you look. If you have to crawl around these dumb tunnels like this, crab walk. It doesn't matter if you look dumb, because you will not be sore the next morning, hopefully, probably. And it'll be totally worth it. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. I hope this voiceover was at least somewhat entertaining, because I'm really grasping at straws here. Hopefully you enjoyed the tour. Maybe somebody can film a horror film down there sometime or something. It was fun. But, yeah, that's that. Peace out, I guess.
That's done. Peace out, tunnels. It was a good time.